Okay, in the next series of videos that we are going to spend time with, we'll be covering the nervous system and its various components. Okay, in this video, this will be just your brief introduction on the nervous system, and just to kind of give you a heads up as to what we're going to cover in a next handful of videos. You will find that the nervous system is going to be longer than the other systems, meaning the duration of time that we're going to spend on it, because there's so much associated with this one. So, and I just wrote down a few things that we're going to cover, and I'm going to try to put these on a number of videos. So this first video that we're going to look at is the overall or your general function of your nervous system. We're going to talk about how it's organized. It can be organized two different ways, structurally or functionally. So we're going to go through each one of those in separate videos. Then we are going to look at the structure of a nerve and the function of the nerve itself and the different associated structures with this one. We'll talk about glial cells, what they are, what they do. So there's a number of different glial cells. We will then talk about the brain anatomy and its associated functions. So we're going to talk about the various lobes, the meninges, whatever those are. We're going to talk about the brain ventricles, cerebral spinal fluid. We're going to look at the differences between white matter and gray matter. We're going to talk about cranial nerves, spinal plexuses. We'll talk about dermatomes. We're going to get into the autonomic nervous system. And then the autonomic nervous system, we'll break it down into a couple categories: sympathetic versus parasympathetic, and which one and what those do on this one. So as you can hear, I hope you don't have a headache yet, because this is a big one. Please, please, please take it seriously. If you recall from those notes that my previous students have done, since I asked them specifically, hey, could you write yourself a letter saying what would you do differently if you met yourself, or what would you tell new students? And pretty much uniformly everyone says take it seriously, don't get behind, stay on top of it. So please, 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 please stay on top of these things. Okay, so let's get started on this one. This one is going to be the general function of the nervous system. Now, the nervous system is one of two systems of your body that coordinate and control everything else. Okay, so the nervous system controls and coordinates, say, muscle flexion and so forth. So you have a nerve going down to the muscle and tells the muscle to contract and so forth. So we're going to go through a variety of those. The other system we'll get into later, probably 4 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, and that's the endocrine system, and that deals with glands and hormones and so forth, okay? But for right now, we're just looking at the nervous system. So the first thing that we're looking at on the nervous system is, well, let me see if I can do this on this one, okay, wherever my cursor is. There we go. So your first one, let's do this. Your primary function, or your primary first general function, is to collect information. Okay, so it's collecting information from, or it monitors the environment, whether it's an internal or external stimulus. Now, you have specialized nerve endings, specialized nerve structures that are sensitive to various things. So you're going to have nerves that are sensitive to temperature. You have nerves that are sensitive to pressure and touch and pain. And you can have nerves specialized to monitor the amount of sodium in your blood, how much pressure is on a blood vessel, okay? So we have a variety of specialized nerve structures that help to monitor it, takes that information, and transmits it to your spinal cord and brain. Okay? So that's the collecting information, and it transports it to your spinal cord and brain. The second step in this one, once it gets into the spinal cord and brain, it processes that information. Okay, when it processes the information, and this can be done at the spinal cord level, and it can also be done at your brain, okay? And we'll get into this in much more detail. When it processes that information, it determines if a response is needed, okay? And if a response is needed, then it takes us to the third step in this case, which initiate a response. Okay, so let's kind of look at this, what's going on in here. So I've added a couple pictures here. So here we just have a picture of your arm. Okay, you touch your arm, you're going to feel it. Okay, so we're going to have specialized nerve endings there. Let me change the color of this, and let's just go with a blue. Okay, so what we have here is a picture of an arm, and it has nerves in it, and let's say we put a match underneath it, okay? So a couple different things that you're going to notice. You're going to notice a temperature change, okay? So how do you notice that there's a temperature change? Somewhere at your hand level, in this case, we have to have special nerve endings that pick up this change of its environment, the change in temperature, okay? And it then sends it to your spinal cord and then the brain. So let's just kind of draw this out, and I'm going to draw nerves kind of in blue. I think I've got blue, yeah. So here we've got a nerve ending in this area. It sends it down, it goes through this area, and it gets to your spine. So, and I'm going to change colors on the different steps, okay? Because we're actually changing the nerve. This is not one set nerve, okay? But at the spinal cord level, we're changing nerves. So let me do green on this one, okay? So let me go back. So this signal is going this direction, okay? And then at this point, once we're in the spinal cord, two things could happen. It can send it to the brain to process the information, or it can process it at the spinal cord level. Right now, let's just stick with going to the brain, and we'll come back to the spinal cord level. So now we've got a nerve that comes in here. If I can stay within the lines, it comes up to this part of the brain, okay? And again, this is going this direction. And it's in the brain that it processes the information. So your brain says, hey, I feel my hand getting warm, okay? Because you got a match underneath it. Now, it can be a nice, comfortable warm, or it could be burning the skin, okay? So your response is going to be differently. If it's just nice and warm and it's not causing any damage, no response is necessary, we're fine. If it's too hot and it's going to cause damage, a response becomes necessary. Got an ambulance going by or something. A response is going to be necessary. So here's where it's going to then initiate a response. And let me put this one in red. Okay. And it initiates a response coming down the spine. Okay, it comes down this direction, goes back to this area, okay? So now we're going down, okay? Actually, we have a change in the type of nerves in these areas, but that's okay. And what this is doing is that nerve then goes to the muscles, tells the muscles to contract, which then moves the arm away, okay? So that's your basic step. So step one, let me go back in here. Let me just kind of draw lines with this. So one is going to be here. I have green on this one. Process the information is green, and red is initiate the response. Okay, something like that. So you can kind of see that process. Okay, so let's look at your next option on this one. Is let's look at where the information is processed at the spinal cord level and doesn't make it to the brain, okay? And this is your standard reflex. So as you can see on this picture, this is where the doctor hits your knee and your leg pops out, okay? That's just one type of reflex. There's a lot of different reflexes within the body, okay? But they all work basically the same idea. And in this case, the doctor strikes this, okay? So you have a nerve ending. I guess this picture is going in the wrong direction. So let me kind of, okay, that's going to the spine, and we're going into the spine over here, okay? So this nerve is sending it this direction, okay? That's just the signal that is going to your spine. And at this point, let me get rid of this one. At this point, it doesn't necessarily go to the brain to process the information. The spinal cord itself processes the information. What it does is it makes a nice little U-turn, goes to this muscle here. Okay, so this one's going that direction. Okay, and it's going to contract, in this case, your quadriceps. You should know that muscle. It's going to contract your quadriceps, and what it's going to do is it kicks the leg out. Okay, so when you contract the muscles in this area, okay, so if you can contract that muscle, it shortens it up, which pulls that leg out. That's your basic reflex, okay? Another option, so these are kind of external stimuli. So an internal stimuli would be something more of the heart, okay? What's your blood pressure right now? Can you feel it? Can you tell me how much oxygen is in your blood? No. So this is subconscious level or unconscious level that your body is monitoring your internal environment that you're not consciously aware of. It's doing this automatically. And here we are going to have various nerve endings that's either coming from blood vessels, it's coming from the pressure in your heart, it's coming from the oxygen levels in your heart. It could be a variety of different issues. That's going to end up going into the spine. And then from there, it's going to end up going into your brain to well, that really isn't a good color. Can't really see that. So that's going to be going up to your brain for processing. Hypothalamus, medulla oblongata. Those are structures we're going to talk about. But those are parts of the brain that end up dealing with these different things. So that's it for this video, I believe. The next one that we're going to do, we're going to talk about the organization of your nervous system. Or the next two videos, we're going to look at structural and functional organization. First one, we'll go into structural. All right. See you in a bit.